Does anyone know the history of this building? That's a question I posed to one of my Northern Virginia history Facebook groups in the summer of 2025. I've driven past this restaurant for ages, and the building looks old, very dissimilar to the businesses that surround it. It's a local barbecue rib joint, but has the bones of a much older establishment. It exists here on a small strip of concrete alongside a very busy Route 1 in Alexandria, the longest north-south road in the United States. To me, it seems to have been either an old hot dog or ice cream stand, as in a Tasty Freeze. Most of the answers I received were of the variety, "It's been a barbecue place ever since I can remember." That seems to have been the consensus. However, I did receive one definitive answer from someone claiming to have grown up in the area. It was a Carrols, and the building is missing the flying wedges. A what? I was intrigued. The Carrols chain was started by Leo Marantz of Tasty Freeze out of the Midwest. His daughter's name was Carol. But under the stewardship of Herb Slotnick from upstate New York, it really took off. Slotnick's family had a chain of movie theaters. He became the largest franchise owner of Carrols, which encompassed New York State and New England. He eventually bought out the chain from Tasty Freeze. During the fast food explosion of the 60s and 70s, he was doing a decent job competing with McDonald's and Burger King. By the mid-70s, Carrols had grown to one of the largest regionalized fast food chains in the northeastern United States, with over 150 restaurants. It's at that point that the corporation made a major decision. Having decided that they had brought the concept as far as it could go, they entered into a franchise agreement with Burger King. Carrols converted some of their restaurants to Burger King and phased out the rest. Carrols Corporation today is a subsidiary of Restaurant Brands International Inc. and operates over 1,000 Burger King restaurants. But what of this little barbecue stand? The official name is Johnny Mac's Rib Shack, but good luck finding that on any of the signs. And its history is just as elusive as the building. Someone mentioned that it used to be a restaurant called the Dog House. I ran a quick search for Johnny Mac and came up with a myriad of different restaurateurs around the country. Months ago, I found an article about a Johnny Mac that retired back to his home in North Carolina, having operated this joint since the 1970s. I've since lost that article. Another person posted that the original family sold the business and the new recipes don't taste quite the same. So that checks out. I stopped in last August after work and decided it was time for me to try it for myself. I love the old signboards on the inner walls above the counter. Even though folks generally recommended the pulled pork, I went with the ribs, mac and cheese, and collard greens. I had a bit of a drive home, so wasn't sure how well everything would travel. The ribs did dry out some in the styrofoam container, but they were perfectly edible. The mac and cheese was kind of bland, but the collards were authentic Southern style. There's a bunch of old commercials online for Carrols, and several of them mention the Club Burger, which was their answer to the double-decker burgers popularized by many other chain restaurants of the era. So that's what I'm going to try and duplicate today.
If good food turns you on, turn into Carrols. Drive right in and have the meal of your life. If good food turns you on, turn into Carrols, where the service is the fastest and the price is right.
At the grocery store, we'll grab some 80-20 ground beef, dill pickles, ketchup, a head of lettuce, Carrols Royal dressing, which was Kraft Thousand Island dressing, and these nice brioche buns. For good frozen restaurant-style onion rings, you can't go wrong with Nathan's. Back in the kitchen, I measured out the meat into 2 third-pound patties, since that seems to be the general weight that most fast food restaurants go with for their double-decker burgers. The rings are better air-fried, but I'll just toss them in the oven today. One trick for trimming down that middle bun is to take a bottom bun, pop it in the freezer for about 30 minutes, and then using a sharp knife, shave the bottom off until you have a good consistent sized slice. Then they go in the toaster oven until they get a nice golden crust. Let's get that meat on the grill. And before I flip, I'll season with a little SPG. And then the burgers come off. When it comes to assembly, this is where researching fast food history can lead you to scrambling down that rabbit hole. I've learned that what separated these broken chain restaurants from companies like McDonald's is the inconsistency in print and in commercial advertising. For example, here's a photo of the Club Burger circa 1968. Notice the onions on top of the cheese? And in the commercial from about the same year, the short order cook is grilling the onions on the burger patties. That would lead you to believe that the food at one location could taste different at another location. It seems trivial, but that's the kind of attention to detail that Ray Kroc would obsess over. That would eventually push a mind-numbingly consistent product like the Big Mac to prevail over its competitors. For my assembly, I'm going to follow the print ad. Bottom bun and then a burger patty. Ketchup, a slice of American cheese, diced white onion, 2 dill pickle slices, middle bun, second burger patty, shredded lettuce, and Carrols royal dressing.
If good food turns you on, turn into Carrols. Drive right in and have the meal of your life.
If good food turns you on, turn into Carrols, where the service is the fastest and the price is right.
Alright, that burger was actually a whole lot of fun to make. And it didn't mess up my kitchen too much, so I'm happy about that also. Now, obviously, I've never had Carrols Drive-In. They were gone before I was even born. But a lot of folks that I've seen on different message boards and on Reddit threads say that they actually preferred it to the Big Mac, and they were bummed out that the Big Mac actually killed it. One of the things I read about this particular location in Alexandria is the very first franchise McDonald's chain went in, the very first restaurant actually went in right down the road from this location. So I'm sure that contributed a little bit to its downfall. And you'll see that it's kind of an unconventional assembly. Now, I've seen several different YouTubers do it a little bit differently. I've been doing this discontinued food series for a while now. If there's one thing that I've learned, that there is no consistency across these early franchises. And I know that there are several different recipes floating around on the internet about how the special sauce was made. But I think it was common practice in the 1970s to use Kraft Thousand Island. And that's pretty much what I decided to do for this video. So this thing is wrapped and waiting for me. So let's get on to taste testing it. I'm gonna start with those onion rings while they're still hot. Now, obviously they were serving up those onion rings fresh in restaurant and they were frying them. Okay, here is the burger all wrapped up. Very similar, I think, to the way that they did it. I saw some old advertisements where it was actually wrapped. And I love wrapping it because it takes it from the photo finish to something that was a little bit more approximate to probably what you would have gotten at the restaurant. You can see it gets a little compressed, but I also think, you know, the cheese gets a little bit more melty and all those flavors come together in the wrapping. So let's try it out. So the first thing I note that it is actually a lot tangier than some of the other triple decker burgers that I've done on the channel. The ketchup gives it a little bit more of a tanginess. And you can see those patties look a lot like restaurant style. That one's super easy to make. I think you should give it a try. Now back to future me. Listen, here's the deal. I've read that a few Carrols existed in Northern Virginia, but I'm not convinced that this building served that purpose. It's possible it was a Tasty Freeze restaurant, which also served burgers. After all, their histories are intertwined. But time marches on, and so does this series. If you like the video, please make sure you mash that button and hit subscribe on your way out. You never know what we're serving next. Thanks for watching. Peace.